little accident,
we
he thinks
haven't
you're a
even started
mistake.
yet.
And of course, Mekumon opens with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely savage. We're here for it, folks. We are so here for it.
Bob Ross thinks you're a mistake. Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean,
In the case of a certain handful of Roottrees, he'd be right.
yeah, those guys are not happy little accidents. The best thing about any of those people, their mothers swallowed.
No, hold on. Some of them were happy little accidents.
A handful.
Miracle Roottree, on the other hand, was not a happy little accident, despite the name and circumstances of his birth, because he's an ass.
He really is.
Egg cream was a happy little accident that won't be accepted.
Mm-hmm. Sam was a happy little accident that won't be accepted. Sam Roottree. Trying to think of who else.
And I'm rapidly just patting Stitch on the head.
You are the one animal on Earth that Steve Irwin does not think is gorgeous.
Fuck!
So, from the footage of that fateful day, he's in the middle of telling the stingray how pretty it is.
I've heard people say that when he died, his ghost probably went, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you."
Well, yeah, he's Steve fucking Irwin.
He was a cinnamon roll.
And
Sweet,
from
sweet
what I've
cinnamon
been
roll.
able
Too
to
good for this
determine-
world.
And from what I've been able to determine, the apples did not fall far from the tree.
Yeah, his kids are great.
I've been told that about myself, that I'm too good for this world or too nice for this world.
Too good for this sinful world.
From mom to co-workers at work.
Okay, your mom is kind of the exception because it's your mom, but coworkers?
Mm-hmm. Because I'm always like giving people candy and trying to like boost morale by bringing snack cakes or something. I'm always like really super nice, and they're just like, "You are too sweet for this world." Especially managers point that out.
Well, yeah, isn't that HR's job to give, corporate appeasement pizza?
We haven't had that in a while.
And it's usually cold,
I
isn't it?
wonder why.
So I tend to like,
It's
when
always
mom was
cold, as
here,
is
I would
tradition.
once a month run to Dollar General, buy like 4 or 5 boxes of snack cakes and bring them into work. Out of my own pocket. They were gone before night shift even came in.
They need to give you a raise.
Yeah, they do.
They
Stop doing shit for which you are not paid.
they give me like 20-cent raise last week for my evaluation. To get 2 raises
That's
a year.
fucking pathetic.
Well,
Yeah.
On their
consider
part.
the establishment
You deserve
for
better.
which. I mean, consider the establishment for which he works. Like, it is not nearly as happy as its look in the '90s would have had you believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I've gotten cussed out for not giving someone free sauce before.
Yeah, no, a 20% praise is fucking pathetic.
I've also gotten
You
like someone
deserve
giving me an
better.
attitude, but I gave them the sauce for free and just saying, normally we charge for this, but I'm gonna give you this. And a lady like did that like jolt forward threatening thing at me as they were driving off.
Oh, that explains so much. My friend, you had a Karen.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, you've experienced a Karen. I am sorry.
It was a group of like, I hate to say it, black girls. who were threatening me because I didn't give them the free sauce, and like
Okay,
I was
so
like, you know what? Normally we charge 20 cents for this.
Sam?
Just take it and go.
Sam, Karen is not racially coded.
They weren't like, no, like they weren't being Karens. They were being thugs.
Oh.
Like she kind of jolt forward to threaten me as they drove off. Not being Karens, they were being like thug about it.
Yeah, no, they were being thug as they ran away. Classy.
Yeah, that's,
I even gave them the sauce, but I just need them to get the fuck out of my drive-thru.
Hello, Internet.
Hello.
Oh, yes, Roottrees.
Welcome
Yes,
back.
Batman.
Welcome back to the cave. Vegas Bear here as always with Mekumon, Silas, and Archival David.
Woo! Why am I always last?
Because you're so I usually do it in the order of people who have joined the group, like the who have joined the team. Silas technically isn't part of the stream team because they their work is like because their days off are inconsistent, but they joined after I want to say Web.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're
I'm not. Well, usually I work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but like Wednesday is like hangout day, and the rest of the days I'm off.
So you're at the bottom of the list because you were the last one to join.
Last but not least.
If someone else were to join, like if Jerry came back, then you wouldn't be at the bottom of the list. This is very much
Think of it this way. We saved the best for last.
Yeah.
Do I need to turn on YouTube to watch the stream? Because are we gonna do it for Discord?
We are. I just have to turn the game on.
Okay. Just making
Hey,
sure I
how
didn't
about
need to boot
some
up my
Roottrees?
PS5.
Yes, it is Tuesday today. It has been a while.
It is heckin' windy.
It is heckin' windy.
As the Miser brothers continue to fight for dominance, Mother Nature is just having a massive migraine.
Where the
And
hell
not
is-
letting this skit go.
Just send a gif into a chat of a fox and saying it's windy.
Yes. Heckin' windy. Oh, son of a bitch. No, fam, you don't understand. These attachments don't have the thing that makes them, connect to his wrist.
Oh no.
Nemesis Prime don't got guns.
No.
Ooh.
Alright, so let me just turn that on and then share.
Oh, I actually won a figure at Destination Anime for the Gacha machine and something from the claw machine. It got stuck and they had to go get it out.
Dang.
It was a little plush from Carnival, which as soon as I saw it, I knew it was from an anime I'd seen before. I just couldn't remember until I saw the tag.
Alright, we are back
I think it was
at
the
it
last
with
anime done by the studio that did Dead Man Wonderland.
we're back at it with the Roottrees.
Yay!
Let's fucking go.
And my figure's from Dragon Quest that I won.
Ooh, Dragon Quest.
It's a little round boy. I don't know. I think it's Dragon Quest 10, but it's like a little round boy that reminds me of Jumping Flash Moo-Moos.
Is it blue?
He's got like a twig on his head.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, it's blue, and he's got a twig on his head and yellow pants.
On the note of figures, while I was cleaning up in preparation for the eventual change in location over here, I managed to get my old 2003 Transformers Armada Unicron as complete as he's ever been.
Oh yeah?
I found the chest missile at long last, so between that, the Minicon, and the Shin missiles, he is more or less complete.
Alright, so...
I sent a picture of the figure into the chat. He's next to a Stitch figure.
Oh, I have no idea what that thing is.
I could not tell you if I tried.
But he's like a figure that was in one of the gotcha machines that he had to win a key to get to the Square Inc. figure, and I won the key. I thought it was cute, so I'm keeping it, but I don't know what it is either.
Right.
I've never played Dragon Quest.
So, last time on the Roottrees Are Dead, I want to say it was last time. I can't remember. It's been too long. We uncovered the full root tree family tree. We learned the dark secret that there was a sixth 5-piece named Edward Clancy, but he was essentially banished from the family because he was gay. And also, Elias Jr. had a child out of wedlock who, again, because of the times, was sent to live with Edward, who essentially adopted her with his partner, John Miller.
Again, the screaming. Egg Cream was a person, damn it!
Yep, Egg Cream was a person! Egg Cream was a root tree!
Egg Cream was a better person than cinnamon extract!
Yup.
It turns out Egg Cream was the real cinnamon roll.
Or maybe Egg Cream was the friends we've made along the way.
Either way, it's no longer a conspiracy theory if it's proven right.
Yep. We also learned that the reason why Sam, who was the old lady that was contacting us, the reason why she had us go through all this is because of the Root Tree family's Clancid Trust. It is essentially a trust fund for any blood relatives of Elias Root Tree. It is set up in such a way that it is also part of another system. I forgot what it was called. That makes it so that the company president of the candy company only makes about as much as a single pack of 5 pieces a year.
Because it is assumed that, the trust will take care of them.
Yes. It's also put in place so that the person in charge is guaranteed to keep the company running and prosperous, because if they don't, they're gonna have to rely on that for income. But as it turns out, because Sam was technically not part of the Clancy Trust, she and her family never got any money. Which means her son, Ernest, who was the company's 4th president, only made like $36 during his time as president, and had to rely on his wife's income in order to keep them afloat. And yet he kept the company go. He saved the company from the 3rd president. Where is it? Where is that rat bastard? Hudson Gray, or Guy Hudson.
Fucking caviar.
This dude nearly ruined the company, and then Ernest saved
yes.
it, and he never saw a fucking dime.
That's what happens when you basically have to oust Mr. Malik of all people.
Anyway, after the whole fiasco, turns out the Roottrees family may be bigger than we thought.
A lot bigger.
Yeah, turns out the men in the family may have some of the men, 3 of the men, may have had affairs, which means
One of whom was collecting them like friggin' Pokemon trading cards.
hi guy. So now we have to figure out who's who had an affair with who the child is, and eventually we have to figure out if they are biologically a Roottrees or not. Also, there's a family tree update here, which I am going to go ahead and take care of that now. So let's head over to Spider Search.
So is that the weirdest name for a search engine you ever heard, or what?
I misspelled that horribly.
Yeah.
Hold on.
It happens.
ST.
I'm going to go with something simpler. Okay, so
It seems Brian Jones has been busy updating Stephanie Jones' campaign website. 2 new sections exist. The first is Baby Photo. There you see a picture of their new family together in the hospital. According to the site, our daughter was named after her grandmother, which ended up being very fitting considering she was born the night before Christmas. The second is What's Next. There's not much of substance there right now, but it lists some small accomplishments and finishes with the recent rise in popularity and controversies surrounding my extended family, there has been some extra attention on me. Stay tuned for announcements in the coming months about how I plan to use this publicly to accomplish bigger and better things.
Much appreciated, thank you. Can you take David with you? I'm sorry, baby. I know you want to hang out with your food.
aw, they finally had their baby.
With the little Santa hat and everything.
Because in the archived evidence, which was like several months ago, you can see that she is heavily pregnant.
Part of me feels very sorry for the kind of garbage this kid's going to grow up with in regards to her extended family.
Well, so far Stephanie seems to have been mostly disconnected from her family, so named after her grandmother, which would have been Caroline. Remember correctly, she was in politics, and then finally the baby. Occupation. Oh, wait, hold on. Occupation baby. Wait a minute. So, named after her grandmother, so it would be. Hold on. Last name is Jones. First name Carol. Alright. Now, what the fuck were we doing before this? Right, Chris Rafty.
Consult the duck, Lucifer.
You forgot to put a space in the name?
I'm using his email.
Oh, wait, you're not looking for his name, you're looking for the screen name. In which case, you forgot to capitalize the C.
Fuck! Alright. Chris Rafferty's prodigy site seems to have been discovered by the masses. Gone are the art pictures of his cousins. Instead, it's a list of questions that people keep emailing him. Most relevant ones are the following. Are you the son of Clark Rafferty? Yes, but I didn't grow up with him. I remember him from when I was a little kid, but I moved away with my mom when I was very young. We left Pennsylvania and moved back home to Virginia. We lived there with Pete, my stepdad. My dad and I spoke a few times when I found his phone number on a check he sent us in the mail when I was 15. He was happy to hear from me, and now he calls me once a month and came to visit me at college. He tells me about things I don't remember and people like Guy Hudson and Ernie Mattson. My dad and I get along, but obviously we aren't very close. Did you ever meet the Roottrees? I want his response to be, you know, I am technically a root tree, right? You know, my dad is a root tree. I used to know the Roottrees, but never the sisters. I was in the office sometimes when I was a kid, and I definitely met Guy Hudson before he died, but I don't remember. My memory is weird. It's hard to know what I actually remember, and what I only think I do because I have pictures. For example, I have a photo from when I was 5, and in the office with my dad, and Guy was there. I made myself sick by eating chocolate, and some woman who I didn't know cleaned my face. I don't know if my memories of that come from the picture or not. The photo has been added to your evidence. How did you have proof of Ernie Mattson's heart condition? I knew Ernie had a heart problem because my dad told me on one of our phone calls. I asked him about the poison because I saw it on the Roottrees Curse website, and he emailed me some old stuff including the proof, but even with the proof, the website didn't take it down. You spelled... Why is my brain...
You spelled fiance wrong.
Yeah, my brain wanted to say finance. What the fuck? I'm not good at spelling or writing. I'm good at painting and other art. I'm going to school to learn how to edit movies. I want to make cartoons someday. Lulu is much better at spelling. Going by, unless Lulu helped you type all this, you seem to be pretty good at spelling.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got some evidence.
For all we know, it was a case of he spoke and Lulu typed.
Mm-hmm. Alright. Little Chris. And younger Clark when he still had a full head of hair. Also, didn't we learn that Clark is voiced by someone that we know?
Let me triple check here. Oh, yeah, Clark, right?
Yeah, Clark.
Mike Pollock.
Right! He's voiced by Dr. Eggman.
My mind just want to go, I am the Eggman. This is a master plan. I am the Eggman.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, my name is Natalia. I'm calling from Infinity Health Clinic. Now you can get access to free money for your needs from
No. 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 Nah. Alright.
To bring back a piece of advice Dave had mentioned a while back, you wait for them to say hello first to determine if it's a bot.
Right. David Fellows. Oh, I had the wrong thing put in. He's a musician, not an artist. Alright, who did we get? Oh, baby. Booyah!
Has Clark reached out to you? Well, let me give you a short history lesson about the last few months of my life.
Hi, Sam.
3 different people contacted me, claiming that somewhere in their history, they might be Roottrees. First, that young man, the rapper. I ignored that one. He seemed dubious. But then I saw the news. I felt terrible. So I began helping the others. Because my doubts with Felix were so misfounded, I ended up putting too much faith in the second person that approached me. I went to the media prematurely. I admit my mistake there. But the third person who contacted me also had a credible case. Before I could help, the company got to them somehow. The fact that the family silenced them doesn't seem to fill me with hope when it comes to Clark's intentions. But You're making progress based on the leads he gave you. It's really hard for me to get a read on him. I'll let you handle it. I've sent you the case I've been working on, and some company records I managed to track down. The records are quite dense, but hopefully they're useful. Good luck.
Alright. Let's see. We've got an email. There's all the information I have about Regina Clementine née Salazar from New Orleans, Louisiana, and her husband Stuart Clementine. She wrote me about a month ago. Apparently the Roottrees lawyers went after her since then. By the time I received her letter and called her, she told me she couldn't cooperate anymore. Her husband, who is a police officer and never knew his father, told her he thought he might be a Roottrees, but he's estranged from his family and didn't want to pursue it because he had no proof. She wrote to me behind his back. Normally I wouldn't be so sure, but it's some pretty credible facts. Some of it I've been able to confirm. Stuart's mother was named Mary Beth Clementine. She was pretty well known in the 30s to 50s, a singer who went on tour to a lot of churches. You can look her up online, and she was a pretty big proponent of adoption. I know for a fact that she came to Butler County a few times. I remember her from when I was younger. And Regina said that Stuart told her they always seem to spend a lot of time at the Miracle Church. She sent me a photo to prove that she's who she says she is. I've attached it to this email. Okay. That must be this photo here. Stuart's the older boy wearing a vest. Then who the hell's the little kid? Not important right now. Company records. You're given some partial staff records to cross-reference by Sam Madsen. These records are based on old tax mailing information and only detail the employees that work directly for Roottrees or in their corporate office. The many laborers...
Watch the little kid be important right now.
Huh?
I said, watch the little kid be important later.
Yeah, watch. Factories are not listed. You're not sure how helpful it will be, except for cross-referencing guys' secretaries and visits overseas. Spy searching people just because they are listed in these books will likely be very time-consuming and a waste of your time. Damn. Leadership: Zach Morden. President, Special Management, Ernest Madsen Jr. Office staff: Edward Roottrees, Lloyd Carpenter, Carl Monroe, Elizabeth Cravensworth. Product Management: Eli C. Roottrees, Fred Cross, Albert Cross, Douglas Rosenberg. Secretaries: Juliet McCullen, Joanne Robertson, Doris Mays, Beth Knox. Farm and Manufacturing: Samantha Madsen, John Miller, Elizabeth Farrow, Thomas Green, Fred Gleason, Stuart Todd, Sam Harmon, Robert Logan, Michael Crane, Jack Keatings. Also, there's Sam and one of her dads. Major expense: none. That's 1975. This is 76 and 77. In 77, it was announced that Zach would be retiring and Guy would be taking over at the start of 78. They held a retirement party in November before spending the final month working on the transition. During 76 and 77, the following changes took place. Leadership: Guy Hudson has replaced Ernest Madsen Jr. as special management. Patrick Decker was hired. Eli C. Roottrees is no longer employed by Roottrees. Ernest Madsen Jr. is now listed under product management. Christine Farah was hired. Joanna Robertson is no longer listed among the secretaries, but a Joanne Fellows has been added to the list. A year later, Joanne Fellows and Beth Knox are no longer employed by Roottrees. Fuck! Hold on, do we have her name listed? We do not. We know her last name's Fellows. So, for now, I'm going to put Joanna. Beth Knox, no longer employed. Christine Farrow is no longer listed among the secretaries, but Christine Garland has been hired. Yeah, okay. Farm and Manufacturing, John Miller is no longer employed by Roottrees. Gwyneth Madsen was hired. Oh, that's Sam's daughter. Beth Knox, 50-year work anniversary, bonus $50,000. Zach Morden, retirement party, $20,000. What? Oh, because anniversary bonus. Okay, that makes sense. 78, 79. Hudson took over. This began a particular volatile period in the company's staffing. Many travel expenses were listed, and Guy began trying to develop new 5-piece flavors. The following changes were recorded. Guy Hudson replaced Zachariah Morden as leadership. Office staff: Edward Roottrees, Elizabeth Gravensworth, and Lloyd Carpenter are no longer employed by Roottrees. Raffertunes is now listed as office staff. That's Clark's company. Product management: Albert Cross and Fred Cross are no longer employed by Roottrees. Secretaries: Christine Garland is no longer working for Roottrees. Beatrice Watts and Corrine Schwartz were hired. Juliet McCullen and Doris Mays are no longer employed by Roottrees. Lisa Lewis and Valerie Ewing were hired. Farm and Manufacturing: Thomas Green, Michael Crane, Elizabeth Farrow, and Jack Keatings are no longer employed by Roottrees. Emily Seinfeld and Sam Cattrall were hired. Wait, Cattrall? Is that not the name that... No, that wouldn't make any sense. Oh, Sam is Gwyneth's husband. Okay. Robert Logan is no longer employed by Roottrees. William Sams was hired. Special service interpreter Susan Ford was hired under a special category that only existed for 1 year. Major expenses: presidential office refurbishment, $52,000. 5-piece flavor development, caviar, $10,000 a month? The hell? Edward Roottrees retirement party, $7,500. Christmas tree bash, same amount. New Year's Eve ball, same amount. Travel expenses: Australia, China, France, Brazil. $190,000. 5-piece flavor development butterscotch? $10,000 a month. 5-piece flavor development caviar.
So what you're looking at is actually embezzling.
I was gonna say, these flavor developments are embezzlement.
Mm-hmm.
He's sending this money to someone.
Yes, but where?
4th of July Spectacular, $7,500. New Year's Eve Ball, same amount. Let's see. Many new employees intend to stick around very long. Following changes were recorded. Office staff, Terry O'Connor was hired. Susan Ford had been moved to office staff. Product management, Douglas Rosenberg is no longer employed. Edward Morrison and Robert Andrews were hired. Edward Morrison is no longer employed. He lasted a year. Damn. Secretaries, Corrine Schwartz and Beatrice Watts are no longer employed by Roottrees. Linda Lewis and Angela Ingram were hired. Lisa Lewis and Valerie Ewing are no longer employed by Roottrees. Linda also only lasted a year. Damn. Catherine Garrett was hired. Wait a minute. Garrett. Why do I know that? Okay, no, it's not that. Why do I know Garrett? Okay. Farm Management, William Sams is no longer employed by Roottrees. Emily Seinfeld, no longer employed, but Emily Barnes is now listed. Gwyneth Madsen is no longer employed, but a Gwyneth Cattrall is now listed. So this is after she married Sam Cattrall. Alright. Special Services Interpreter, Susan Ford no longer works in this department. Major expenses. Alright, here we go. 5-piece flavor development, strawberry. $10,000 a month. 5-piece flavor development. What even is that? Is it Zigua?
Zigua.
$10,000 a month. Butterscotch, $10,000 a month. Caviar, $10,000 a month. Wait.
It's a
watermelon, dude.
sorry, Shigua. It's a Mandarin Chinese for watermelon.
Wait a minute.
Let me guess. He was off spreading his wild oats in Hong Kong.
Travel expenses, Australia, China, France, Brazil.
French flavor, Australian flavor, Chinese flavor, and Brazilian flavor.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's either hush money or child support.
So,
Why not both?
not counting this one, that would be...
Yes, both is good.
Not counting 5 P's over here. That would mean 1, 2, 3, 4. Was he using the new 5-piece developments to develop flavor developments to hide his?
I'm gonna take a little break. I'll be right back.
He was using them to hide his affairs. Grandorf Dove? Oh, School for the Deaf. It's located about an hour from where the Roottrees offices used to be in Butler County, but serves much of the part of Pennsylvania and nearby Ohio. According to their website, it was formerly named Grandorf. I keep wanting to say Ganondorf. From 1923 to 1990. Because Grandorf was the last name of the founder, and Dove is the Danish word for deaf. The founder had issues with government translators, leading to an odd transcription issue. In 1990, it was renamed to better represent the school's purpose and to correct the embarrassing lack of effort and awareness demonstrated by the government officials in those early days. Staff is listed on the website. You scan through all of the biographies and find that the principal, Miss Ford, is fluent in 5 languages, including American Sign Language. She has been working at the school for over 15 years. Miss Ford's bio also mentions she's not deaf herself, but rather learned sign language to communicate with the deaf. It mentions that she was responsible for securing funding for the Hudson wing. Guy Hudson?
Mm-hmm.
It was an expansion to Grandorf School for the Deaf, first built in 1982. It's a separate, much smaller building, half a block from the main campus, and operates as a smaller independent school that offers free ASL courses for the family members, friends, and caretakers of deaf children. According to their history site, they got their name after the president of the Roottrees Company generously donated $250,000 towards the construction of the building. There's also a very vague history section that you can somewhat fill in with details from the other information you've seen about the school. It mentions that the donation came at the insistence of an employee of Roottrees at the time. It mentions that she learned ASL from the main school before the Hudson wing even existed. To surprise her future husband, who was deaf, after realizing how useful a service like this could be to non-deaf people that wish to better serve those with hearing issues, she convinced Roottrees management to invest in the school. Hudson wing opened, and she became the first teacher at the new campus. At first, it only operated on weekends, but since then, it has added afternoon classes on some weekdays. Interesting. Miss Ford. Susan Ford, maybe? And of course. Wait. Suffered a few odd appearances here and there, or has made a few odd appearances here and there in Butler County Times since 1990. It's not too many that you can't look at them all. And so after scrolling through a few pages, you manage to find something incredibly useful in an article that isn't even focused on the school itself. Local students provide key evidence in scientific study. The article from March of this year, 1999, mentions that the Ford sisters, who attend public school in Butler County, are one of only a handful of identical twins in the world who suffer from 2 different genetic issues. One of them has asthma, and the other has a deadly allergic to peanuts. Their mother, a Miss Susie Ford, who is principal at the nearby School for the Deaf, was originally contacted by researchers looking to identify if there were any sets of twins where one was born deaf and the other was not. While she didn't have any twins attending her school, she asked if her daughters, Melissa and Heather, could be useful, and it turns out they were. She says they couldn't be more different. My youngest, we all call her that even though it's only by about 15 minutes, is shy but essentially hasn't stopped running from the moment she's learned to scamper. Asma has kept her sister off the soccer field, but she's the definition of extrovert and is even performing in a local production of Is There a Life After School later this year. The article includes a picture of the girls added to your evidence. Jackpot! Guy Hudson died in May of 1982, so the first few months of that year continued along the same pattern as they had been. Things quickly changed when Ernie took over. Most of the extraneous expenses ended, and all of the secretaries, most handpicked by Guy Hudson, were let go. Sam Matson left Roottrees in 1984, so this is the last set of books you have access to. Ernest Matson Jr. replaced Guy Hudson. Carl Roottrees joins the special management. That makes sense. Carl was the fifth president and Ernie's replacement. Susan Ford is no longer employed by Roottrees. That Susan Ford, she was a translator and also the principal at the school for deaf. Yeah. At the Hudson wing. 83, 84, no change. Ernest Matson Jr. no longer works in this department, product management. Douglas Rosenberg was rehired. Secretaries Angela Ingram, Linda Lewis, and Catherine Garrett are no longer employed by Roottrees. From here on out, no secretaries are directly employed by Roottrees. Roottrees instead uses a temp agency called Worktime Temp. I'll look at that later. Farm and Manufacturing, Victor Logan was hired. Stuart Todd is no longer employed by Roottrees. Amy Sutton was hired. Sutton, why does that sound familiar? Sam Matson.
We've heard it before.
Sam Matson is no longer employed by Roottrees. That was when she left, right? Major expenses: 5-piece flavor development sugar plum, $20,000 a month, canceled after 5 months. $100,000. Strawberry, canceled after 5 months, $50,000. Jiwa, did I say that right?
Jiwa.
Canceled after 5 months, $50,000. Butterscotch, canceled after 5 months, $50,000. Caviar, also canceled after 5 months. New Year's Eve Ball, Fred Gleason, 50-year anniversary, 50-year work anniversary bonus, $50,000. Root clothing reimbursement, Carl Roottrees, $1 million. Damn. All right. Duck. Joanna. Okay, so yeah. News time. Secretary.
Oh, fuck!
That would, yeah, that I should have realized that because on the photo it says she was Zach Morton's secretary. Okay. Wait, her last name may not be Fellows. No, wait, it should be, because in the company records it said her last name was Fellows.
I return.
Welcome back.
Huzzah!
Oh, wait, her last name may have been Robertson, and it was changed to Fellows when she got married.
What I
What's
miss?
happened when women get married?
Alright,
A lot of the
so
time.
we've gotten some more evidence. And we also know that these two may very well be related to Guy Hudson. Their mother is Susan Ford, who is currently the principal for a school for deaf kids, or like school for the deaf. And she's working out of the Hudson wing, which was developed thanks to a great financial donation from the Roottrees company. Susan Ford also happened to serve as an interpreter for Guy Hudson during a certain period of time.
Is it? I'm not sure if this is awful or not, but the instant I saw the name Salazar and the surnames, my brain flashed back to Resident Evil 4.
I mean, awful is not the word I would use to describe it, but it's close.
Wait, she was a cashier?
My brain went to Salazar Slytherin, but I have Harry Potter brain rot.
I'm just remembering a guy who mutated and had a weakness to eggs.
Eggs.
I am not kidding.
Who
Apparently,
would win
he
in a
was
fight, him or egg cream?
Egg cream wins hands down. He brought the whole damn carton.
Right, so it does say she worked cashier. My bad. Secretary was her previous job.
Yep. Was it Salazar Bear, the guy who had the crippling weakness to eggs?
In what?
Resi 4?
Yes!
Because I remember you chucking one at him and he just straight up died on contact. one of the most absurd things I'd seen in recent memory when it came to Resident Evil.
Misspelled Clementine. Let's see. She was a singer, most popular in the years between 1942 and 1959. She traveled around the country performing at churches. Her repertoire was a mix of religious and popular songs, and although she recorded a few records, they seem lost to time. The only one you find mentioned was a cover of "He's Got the Whole World in His Hands," released under the label New Edison. One thing Mary Beth was known for was her adoptions. She's listed on many sites that mention adoption and the history of adoption. She adopted 2 children in the late 1940s, Stuart and Mark. She also spoke as an advocate for the benefits of adoption in front of the United States Congress in 1949, who were convening to debate and discuss the then recent first adoption of an African American child to a white family in the United States. She was
Hang on. United States Congress in 1949. Yeah. Convening.
All right. She was specifically there to detail her experience going through the system and to adopt Stuart. Her other son was adopted later, and according to a single line in one adoption site, under unusual circumstances. In 1959, it surfaced that Mary Beth had been twice divorced, both times to her manager Sterling. This ended her career with the religious audience she had been catering to, and while she performed occasionally since then, she mostly faded into obscurity. Mary Beth passed away in 1994 at the age of 76 of a stroke. Damn.
That's unfortunate.
New Edison was a small record label based in Los Angeles that existed for a few years in the 40s. It raced to release cover records of songs that were gaining in popularity. According to a website about the history of recorded sound, it was named after its founder, Sterling Edison. The biggest claim to fame is being sued by the estate of Thomas Edison in Edison Records versus Edsel. You also find a few references to New Edison and Mary Beth Clementine on sites about old records. One collector says that the Holy Grail is the re-release of the Old Rugged Cross, and says that the first edition was originally published before she legally changed her name. Another site claims that the police had to be called to New Edison Records after its owner, Sterling Edison, got into a physical altercation in public, leading to a divorce. There are no side sources or evidence, and the site's content seems user-submitted. There's an email address at the bottom, and the phrase, "Send me your stories about old Hollywood, and I'll add them to the page." his first name was actually Sterling?
I mean, that is a name.
I've heard weird.
Y'all familiar with the show Archer?
Yeah.
The main character's first name is Sterling.
And while not necessarily a first name, I do remember a Rod Sterling from somewhere. I believe he was the narrator for the Twilight Zone, if I'm not mistaken.
I wouldn't know, but that sounds correct.
It is correct. Let me see. Old Rugged Cross from New Edison. And it was advertised quite a few times. Oh, her last name was Quaker. Let's see what little Marky Mark got up to. Crocodile Clementine is listed on a website titled The Infamy List. It's a massive list of criminals who are known for odd crimes. Well, shit! Who had that on their bingo card?
Evidently, Sideswipe. He is currently doing a victory dance.
I mean, I knew one of them. I knew one of these kids had to eventually become a bad egg. But damn. Although Mark's nickname would imply he hails from Florida, a lot of others on this list come from there, or Australia. Of course, it's Florida or Australia. What the fuck?
I mean,
Hey,
in fairness...
you remember what the Warlock gets up to?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And also, Australia was originally a prison colony.
It was originally a penal colony. Yes, it was.
Reminds me of a Russian Badger joke. British people are... No, wait, it was... Australians are just British people who got higher up into the tech tree. Or something like that. I'd have to look. I have to find the joke.
I mean, I feel like Australians are just the descendants of British people who got a higher notoriety rating, if you'll pardon my GTA speech.
Mark is listed as being from Los Angeles. He has a pretty big entry. He seems like a real piece of work. There's a very small note about him being the basket baby of 1950. But most...
Hell is a basket baby?
Everything else comes from his adulthood. He lost his job in 1975 as a pilot for a regional airline after he tried to board the wrong airline's plane. He was drunk. He was charged with trespassing and assault.
Price can I get? What has happened? Did he throw hands?
In 1982, he was arrested for transporting smuggled animals over the Canadian and Mexican borders for an illegal reptile supplier in Los Angeles. He was apparently quite successful for the first 4 years, but was caught when he had to make an emergency landing in Portland after he was bitten on the foot by a crocodile, hence the nickname. Apparently, the Portland Telegraph is credited as having given him his nickname. His mugshot from this incident has been added to your photos. In 1993, he was released on parole, but his freedom didn't last long. He was arrested in 1994 in San Diego for violating it in an attempt to visit his daughter's graduation. He famously punched the principal, a man named Billy Sims. This incident received national press. Alright, where are you? Wow, you
Well, damn.
really went downhill fast, huh? Why does he look like Dante from Devil May Cry?
Please, Dante has standards. I haven't played the games, even I know that.
Oh, that wasn't his name. Fuck. Alright. I'll get back to that later. Okay, so first off, there was something, wasn't there? Ba, ba, ba. Portland Telegraph. Flying weekly between Los Angeles, Juarez, and Vancouver. In a small plane, his flights were very low, literally under the radar. He was only caught because he was bit by a crocodile in the leg and had to call in a mayday because he was losing blood. He tried to tell them that he was a crop duster who somehow cut his leg on a loose piece of metal in the cockpit, but his story seemed very odd and controllers quickly alerted the police without informing him. When he landed, they were waiting and he was promptly arrested. Okay.
I've heard stranger stories.
Billy Sims, the principal of Santan Canyon High School, who had his 15 minutes of fame in 1994 when he was punched by Crocodile Clementine at a graduation ceremony. Pretty much every news organization from trustworthy tabloid seemed to have their own take on the altercation. It wasn't the punch that captured the nation's attention. However, instead it was Billy Sims' matter-of-fact response to the threat and his comments afterwards, as heard in a now famous audio clip from someone who was recording the ceremony. Billy saw Mark hop onto the graduation stage and said, "Sir, you'll want to sit down or we'll have a problem." At that point, Crocodile reportedly sucker punched him in the face. Billy, apparently only slightly dazed, said, "Alright, sir, I guess we'll have a problem." Clementine tried to throw another punch, but Sims anticipated it and performed a maneuver that spectators described as a wrestling move mixed with a backward somersault, which immediately brought both men to the floor, with Sims straddling Clementine, keeping him neutralized. Holy shit!
Yowza!
As security arrived, the recording captured someone asking, "How did you do that?" And Sims' response was famously, "Trust me, I'm as surprised as anyone."
Adrenaline is one hell of a drug.
Holy shit, Billy.
And so is Ritalin, honestly.
He was in 3 news articles. Not only did they manage to interview Sims' wife, Carla, as well as multiple staff members at his school, but they hunted out Colleen Webb, Mark's ex-wife. According to the section with Colleen, she and he met when he worked for an airline. She worked in an airport newsstand. He was a drinker and would often have wild mood swings. When he was charged with assault of a fellow pilot in 1975 and lost his job, they divorced. At the time, she was pregnant with their second daughter, and then she felt she needed to get out before things got worse. She left him and moved to San Diego to live with her sister, and told her oldest that her dad had to fly planes for the Army. She raised them both by herself, and although she never went through the trouble of changing their names legally, they used the Webb name as so that nobody would connect them to her ex-husband. Damn. Portland Telegraph had an article, slightly longer than most, about the Billy Sims incident, mostly because the assaulter, Crocodile Clementine, had appeared in the paper before. Because of the somewhat comedic sensationalism of the events in question, and because their readers were already familiar with Mark Clementine, they filed it under a special banner called Croc Watch. It mentions that our good friend Croc Clementine was actually in attendance at the high school graduation because his daughter was walking the stage. He was apparently not allowed to attend. His ex-wife had a restraining order filed on behalf of her daughter, but did so anyways. It was unknown to the school staff, including Sims at the time, who he was, but a security guard recognized him, and that's when the trouble started. Clementine was approaching the side of the stage to try to avoid the guard when the exchange between him and Sims took place. The article finishes by
Facetiously
asking, "What will Croc get up to next? Stay tuned for more Croc Watch. Unfortunately for your investigation, as far as you can tell, there's no more instances of Croc Watch." Butler County Times did report on Billy Sims, but the information seems redundant with the basic information you can find about the incident from the internet. Okay. Which aligns with possible infidelity too. Okay. Oh, don't fucking tell me.
There's that sinking feeling again.
She fucked the preacher man. Like this is getting interesting. Also, wait, 1921? Wait, I don't... I'm just going to put those two there for now, because I get a feeling I know. I think she was an author. Can't remember her name. Hold on. Bess Williams. Antonelli's is an Italian restaurant and has been in the Butler County Times twice. The most recent time was when it closed in 1992. The owner, Rochelle Zimmer, sold the land the building was on, and at the time of the article, she was unsure if the restaurant would move to a new location or if she would retire. Many years before that, there was a puff piece from Valentine's Day in 1978 that asked recent married residents of Butler County how they met. Christine Garland responded, there's that name again. She and her husband Steve, who was a chef at Antonelli's, met years ago when she delivered produce from her mother's farm. Steve used to work extra hours just to be there during her deliveries, although they grew apart when the restaurant switched suppliers. They reconnected by chance and eloped at the end of last year. Now she has a bun in the oven, and they're both working as much as they can. She's a secretary, but went back to delivering produce on the weekends, trying to save up money to move to Boston and open their own restaurant. That was her last name. Yeah, that wouldn't make sense. Hold on. Nothing there. Damn. Okay. What about Rochelle Zimmer? Rochelle and her husband Mark Zimmer have a few mentions in the Butler County Times. Both are local business owners. Rochelle owned Antonelli's, an Italian restaurant, and Mark owned a local bookstore called Bookmarks. Both closed in 1992. Mark was also mentioned once in Butler County Times when he was sued by Steve Garland. Kitchen Tales was a story-based recipe book credited to Mark Zimmer that had some success after it was featured on a morning talk show. The book released before the internet was widespread, so mentions are rare. One book collector states that the publishers were unprepared for the demand and that there was no second printing, so it's unusual to find a copy in the wild. You find an alternative medicine website which focuses on cooking with natural ingredients. It mentions that one of Kitchen Tales' recipes uses salt water. The owner of the site has included a scan of that recipe, which was added to your evidence. She says, if you switch out the salt water in the recipe for a mix of 2/3 spring water and 1/3 filtered seawater, it tastes great.
I don't know why you'd want to put seawater in your food. Whales pee in that.
Yeah, people pee in that.
Fish pee in that. Lots of things pee in that.
Fucking Cthulhu probably pees in that.
Cthulhu doesn't pee.
Are you sure?
Schmittens, yes.
Kitchen Tales is a book that combines recipes and stories. It had mild popularity but seemed to disappear from online marketplaces in 1992. We found a scan of one story on a website. It demonstrated how to bake the plated loaf. So, wait a minute. For 2 years, two bakers, Flora and Yates, flirted. They grew their friendship, compared recipes, and combined knowledge. She loved his salt and pepper bread. He adored her rosemary cheeks. They thought sweetly about one another, but he was one day whisked away.
Yeah, he was clapping those cheeks.
Conscripted to bake the army's bread. By the oil of the lamp, Flora's tears began to salt her bread. The recipe asked the reader to combine flour, yeast, sugar, olive oil, and rosemary. Combine the salt and water together and add to the mixture and whisk until the dough begins to form. It was 10 to 12 years later that they met again, seemingly by fate. Flora's unique dough had earned her a position as the king's personal baker. Yates had found success as well. He baked for the kingdom's 54 diplomats. One day they returned from the Dutch Isles with a gift. 450 unbaked loaves, and were sent to the palace bakery to teach a method that required no kneading. Allow the dough to proof for 10 to 12 hours, then spread it out and let sit for over 45 minutes on a floured baking sheet with no kneading. Next, prepare a Dutch oven preheated to 45 degrees. 4,500 degrees. Upon seeing Yates, Flora was both delighted and distraught. She felt as if she was torn in two. She had not been made aware of the gift and had already prepared buns for the palace ovens. She wished to greet Yates warmly, but was struck by fears that he'd be unable to bake with her, that she'd face retribution for being unprepared. She cried to Yates, adding more salt to her dough. Cut the dough into 2 equal pieces and lightly sprinkle salt across the top of only one of them. Yates eased her pain. He insisted she had no obligation to prepare for a return she thought impossible. But he shared her fear of retribution. He knew that if they did not solve her predicament, they'd miss their final chance to bake together. In the end, instead of wallowing in the present, they worked together to shape the future. They twisted and entwined their doughs and baked them as one. Thus was born the plated loaf. Word quickly spread of this new delight. The king's decree on royal parchment was that it would be considered a delicacy. Roll and twist the pieces to entwine them. Then take the twist and wrap around the inside of the Dutch oven atop parchment from outside inward to make a spiral. Bankrolled by the king, Flora and Yates spent their days baking together. They traveled for 45 years and settled down for 15 more. Their souls were golden and with no regrets. Lastly, bake for 45 minutes, remove lid, and observe until crust is golden brown, which could take up to 15 minutes. Alright, from what I'm gathering from this story, Flora had a bun in the oven. And when she met Yates again, she was worried how he would react. Turns out, Yates is a decent person. And was like, I'm not going to be upset at you for something like this, because you didn't even, we didn't know we would ever meet again. Also, Flora working for the king. I think this has something to do with Miss Garland. Steve Garland is mentioned in a couple of articles. The first was an article about how he met his wife Christine and when he worked at Antonelli's. Second is from months later in September of 1978, listing of his weekend cooking classes. Gourmet for the Groovy. The blurb mentions that he's been giving lessons from his home kitchen for the last month so that he can keep an eye on his son. The third was from 1991, entitled "Local Author Sued by Former Butler County Resident." Seems that a local author by the name of Mark Zimmer was sued by Garland after Garland saw Zimmer promoting his book Kitchen Tales on television. His recipe book was partially plagiarized from the recipes that Steve Garland would give his students during his cooking lessons before he moved. The article mentions that although recipes are hard to copyright, Garland accompanied each recipe with a short fiction about how he learned it. These usually doubled as a way to remember certain ingredients. Garland's bean salad, for example, involved making a trade with a gnome for some magic beans. Apparently, these stories were found word for word in Zimmer's cookbook, in addition to additional stories that followed the same format. Interesting.
So he's a lazy, glory-grubbing prick.
Wait, that's the author name. Damn it. Alright, someone taught me how to do this before, but I've already forgotten. How do I copy and paste without right-clicking?
Highlight, Control V.
Alright.
I believe that was either right. My brain is stopping. I should know this. Control C, Control V, I believe it was. There we go. Even with my brain frazzled, I still managed to come through.
Garnishing the Truth is a cookbook credited to Garland and Zimmer. It was released in 1994. It was actually quite successful after the duo appeared to promote it on a daytime talk show. They have been multiple printings since. According to a book review, the recipes are accompanied by stories that help the reader remember the ingredients. The reviewers say that it seems perfect for learning to cook with the entire family. Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, I was about to say you might want a comma there.
Garland and Zimmer. The introduction of this book is a series of acknowledgments from Steve. The first is, Christine, thank you for everything. Your support means the world to me. You are the apple of my pie. Second is to James and Robert. You're becoming amazing men and incredible chefs. Guess I'm a good teacher. The final is to Mark Zimmer. You proved my storytelling approach to recipes could be popular. Without you, this book couldn't exist. There's also a foreword by Mark Zimmer. First met Steve in 1978 when he taught a cooking class. Next time I saw him was over a decade later when he was suing me for stealing his recipes. Yes, really. So you might wonder what I'm doing in this introduction. Well, it turns out that Steve and I had more in common than we thought. Instead of settling in court, we settled it at McCarran's Brew House over a game of darts. They said they'd give us the first drink of the night free for an entire year for mentioning them. By the end of the game, he and I agreed we'd both rather make a ton of money together than spend a ton of money on lawyers. It's pretty rare to meet your best friend so late in life, but when I decided to retire, I moved to Boston just so we could hang out. So if you're browsing this book in a bookstore, please buy our book. We need more money for when the free beer runs out, and the bookstore could probably use a sale.
Can't say they don't have a sense of humor.
McCarran's Brew House is a pub in Boston. They have a website. Apparently the bar has been around for a long time. On the site, there is a list of famous people who have had a drink there, including former president of the United States, now the Roottrees Company, Kennedy. There's also a few listings of television shows and books that have mentioned McCarran's, as well as how they came up. One of them is Garnishing the Truth, which the site has this to say about. Local and regular Stevie G wrote a book about food. We prefer cocktails, but he gave us a shout out, and we ain't gonna say no to free press. So grab a bite at his kid's joint, fry die, then swing by to meet him for a drink. Friday is a fairly popular restaurant in Boston. They don't have a website, but many locals seem to mention them in various places. One more in-depth review explains that it's not a full restaurant, just a front door and a very small interior with a window. Usually the restaurants only serves vegetables, but a lot of reviews say that in spite of that, it's delicious. You also find a short story about it.
MSG. Sorry, what?
What?
It's like only serves vegetables, but in spite of that, it's delicious. MSG.
You also find a short story about it listed on a website called My Boston Homepage. Whoever runs the page seems to just link to random sites related to Boston. Tell personal anecdotes related to Boston and give their relatively short opinions on things in Boston. It's very unorganized. It has this to say about Friday. Wicked overrated. I saw it in Chef's Signature, so I went, and there was a huge line, and they didn't have a single meat dish. What's even the point? Alright, Chef's Signature, we've got that. Periodicals, Friday. Less than a year ago, right around the time you were doing your initial investigation. Each article in Chef's Signature tends to focus on the restaurant, and like the magazine's name implies, each restaurant lists the one main dish that the head chef is known for. Friday's signature is the samosa cone. The cover and main article have been added to your inventory. Let's see here. James and Robert Garland on the cover of their November 1998 issue. According to the article, the two brothers own a small walk-up window in Boston called Friday, a play on tie-dye shirts that the servers wear that exclusively serves vegetarian dishes. Most of the offerings are heavily inspired by the powerful spices found in Thai and Indian food. Their signature dish is the samosa cone, which from a somewhat distant. Oh wow, okay.
May I?
Yes.
Their signature dish is the samosa cone, which from a distance somewhat resembles a traditional ice cream complete with a waffle pattern. Instead, it contains fried potatoes, pureed peas, carrots, and a special ginger-based sauce. Robert, who is 3 years younger than James, jokes that although the age difference has left him delegated to wear the sous chef jacket his whole life, he doesn't mind. As a result, James answers most of the interview's questions. James credits his love for food and culinary skills to their upbringing. Most kids hate vegetables growing up, but they don't have parents like we did. My father was a chef, and my mother grew up on a farm that supplied his restaurant. That's how they met. I don't have any memories of the farm or anything like that, since we moved here before I could even talk, but they told me stories. My dad's a great storyteller. He even wrote a book that partially helped fund Friday. When we moved, they were looking to open their own restaurant together. Unfortunately, they never got it off the ground. His line cook gig ended up being less temporary than he hoped, and she had to go back to work as a secretary even after Robert was born. Before we were old enough to go to school, we spent our days with my aunt. In the diner where he worked, my dad had no room for experimenting, so he'd exercise his skills at home on his days off. We'd always go shopping and cook as a family on those days, and even though we were hyper kids running around and causing a ruckus, those were some of our family's favorite memories, since we were all together. Mom always had an eye for the best vegetables for him to work with, and she did her best to pass that on to us. According to the article, their parents, who are now retired, visit Friday often. They even have a signature dessert, the Sistine Apple. Ha! Apple pie has always been my mom's favorite, and my dad always had this stupid line they used to make her laugh involving apple pie. Most people realize it's a Sistine Chapel pun and assume that's all there is to it. But it's actually secretly named after them, sort of. I think it's cute.
Yeah.
That is actually kind of adorable.
If I spider search Sistine Apple, will it? Nope. Okay.
It's like, you gotta love moments like this in between the more unsavory stories. Just these brief beacons of wholesomeness.
Mm-hmm.
It appears Deva might be having some connection issues. Like, I know we've been back for a few days now, but it's still really good to be back.
Mm-hmm.
Especially meaning that now we can actually move closer to finishing Resi 5 and moving on.
Oh, right. I forgot to mention. We won't be able to stream on Wednesday.
Well, open mouth, insert paw.
It's because we're having the roof worked on, and it's going to be noisy.
I understand.
So, yeah.
I'll just use Wednesday to catch up on my rest, all things considered.
Probably a good idea. Let's see here. Christine Farrow. So her last name used to be Farrow.
So, it just happens to be on my mind right now, but I figured I'd ask. If you should ever get a hold of one of the new 86 mold seekers, would you like me to direct you to a shop on eBay that does, like, extra hand and face options for them, as well as, null rays that aren't clear plastic painted over?
If I do what?
If you eventually pick up one of the Studio Series 86 Seekers, like Thundercracker, do you want me to direct you to a shop that has null rays that aren't clear plastic painted over?
Sure. Also, hi, Deva.
Come back.
Good.
Well done! Another milestone reached.
Yeah, I was hoping I was wrong about Miracle, but, well,
Sam reached out to me finally. I think I have you to thank for that one. My family's in a bit of a rough patch. Even though the candy is selling better than ever, everyone is fighting over the trust. The majority of us want to dissolve it. On paper, it seems like the right decision. The arguments about what to do next are endless and heated. More than a few Roottrees are worried about losing their wealth. I don't think we deserve it more than anyone else. I love my family, my wife, my daughters, even my son, who I hardly ever get to see. I want to keep them safe and secure, but I didn't do anything to deserve this fortune. Hell, I probably deserve it less than most. It took me way too long to get my life together. Okay, enough about me. Here's the deal. I can't stop the majority from voting one way or another. If you keep passing along potential Roottrees, I'll keep adding them to the list. On the other hand, there's been some leaps forward in genetics. It may sound like science fiction, but we can actually determine who's in the family just by testing their DNA. What you've done so far has been very useful. Just keep filling out the tree and we'll prepare for the tests.
Hey, this is the 90s after all.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was an exciting bit in the 90s, wasn't it?
We kind of take that for
Science-wise.
granted today, but there was a point where it was this huge leap forward technologically.
Clancy Trust is the Roottrees Company's unusual legal arrangement, and the motivation for most of their major financial decisions. As a recap, the entire family earns inheritance directly from the profits of the candy company, as well as their sister clothing company, Root. With the
Period.
This means that nearly every Roottree can potentially have a say in the company's high-level operations. Historically, this has caused the family to be slow to approve any major expenditures that could significantly dig into those profits. After the release of 6 pieces by Sam Matson, the Clancy Trust came under heavy scrutiny. Sam, her children, and her grandchildren should have been covered under the trust, according to the wording revealed during an internal family conflict between Ron and Robbie Roottree. It seems that those who wrote the trust, Clancy Edward Roottree, fucking cinnamon extract, acted the direction of Elias Roottree, purposely deceived the rest of the family about the exact details of how it worked in an attempt to keep Sam and her father, Edward Clancy, his own twin brother, in comparative poverty. Because the rest of the family made money hand over fist, they had very little motivation to question their understanding. Sam's book revealed this to the public, and it did not go over well. Clark Rafferty LaRue took over the company, and his most celebrated move was his first official one. He ensured Sam's family would get their share. To help facilitate this, the inheritance aspect of the trust is now under the control of a third party, Ruby Legal Enterprises. This ensures that the financial motivations of Roottree family members will not interfere with the investigations into potential new Roottrees. According to Clark's letter, however, some family members are still doing their best to slow the investigation by refusing to answer questions. Of course.
Naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's anything the rich fear above all else, it's losing money.
Ruby Legal Enterprises is the
Doesn't
name of-
matter that they have more money they can ever possibly spend, but oh no.
Yeah. I mean, like looking at the family tree, I can imagine that a lot of the older generations would probably be like, trying to grasp onto the wealth, and like a few of the newer ones too. Like I imagine Miracle Jr. and Miracle the Third are probably like, yeah, no, we kind of need that money. And of course,
to quote the Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, I don't care if he is my dad. It's my money. If I give him some, I have less.
Ronald and Robert were probably fighting over. Well, I mean, we know they were fighting over the Glance of Trust. Last I checked, James was retired, so he probably doesn't care all that much. As long as he's able to support his kids. Carl, I don't know about Carl, because he's dead. Along with his daughters, who honestly they were making bank with the Root clothing line anyway. So I don't think they would have cared. Clark seems to be pretty indifferent to it. And Chris, I don't know. Like maybe Chris doesn't really care that much since he's not really all that connected to his dad. I feel like the Wilson kids would probably be like, yeah, no, we want that money. Anyway, Ruby Legal Enterprises is the name of the law firm that has been hired by the Roottrees Candy Company. The company is named after its head lawyer, Ruby Spratt. Can't find much about the company from before this year, though. All the articles tell the same tale. After the fiasco of Six Pieces and the revelation that Roottrees' Eternal Law Group was complicit in such a cover-up, they hired outside counsel. The Ruby Legal Enterprise Group now seems to have ties to multiple aspects of the Roottrees Corporation, including the Candy Company and Root. They were recently in the news during a high-profile lawsuit they raised against Cicely Sanchez. Alright, I'm gonna go get a drink.
Hydrate, motherfucker.
Make them on. You can read this and give me the cliff notes when I get back.
Righty. Cicely Sanchez is an author best known for Portrait of a Changed Man, released in 1979. Her follow-up, Foreign Gospel, 1984, did not perform as well critically, but still sold quite respectably. She has written a few more books since then, including a biography of Van Gogh, but her first two are her claim to fame. According to a site about authors, Cicely is known for her nonfiction, with a focus on exploring the darkness in the human psyche. Recently, Cicely appeared in a magazine called Piketty with an article about a book she had been commissioned to write for Guy Hudson. The magazine and Cicely herself were immediately issued a cease and desist due to its inclusion of pictures that she never had the rights to publish. The issue was pulled from store shelves, making it an instant collector's item. Well, I'd say that's debatably illegal, using the pictures that you never had the rights to. I love the music in this game.
All right, what I miss?
Okay, so Cicely Sanchez over here is a non-fiction writer who very much loves to explore the darker parts of the human mind. She was in a magazine. She appeared in a magazine called Piketty, talking about a book she had been commissioned to write for Guy Hudson. The magazine and the author were both immediately issued a C&D because they were using pictures they didn't have the rights to.
Imagine that happening. AI companies. Imagine that.
The
Like, this could
magazine
be you.
issue itself has become a collector's item ever since.
Nope.
Whatever it is, I didn't do it.
Spam.
Figures it was spam. There's a bunch of singing Vikings in my yard right now.
I'm sorry, what?
I referenced the Monty Python spam skit.
Oh, okay.
For those who may not be aware out in the audience, first off, I'm surprised given the type of audience we attract. Second off, there were Vikings in the skit that would break into song with next to no provocation about loving spam. The canned meat specifically, not the email type. My turn to get a refill of iced tea. I will be right back.
The Roottrees curse page still exists. Visitor count has reached 7 digits. Many older articles have been replaced. It seems that the recent uprising in Roottrees news has left Thomas Overwood with a constant stream of events to base new theories on. More than one of his theories involve Roottrees deaths being fake. According to Overwood, statistically, when you have this many high-profile people who've died in a family, the odds are that one of them faked their death. It's just math. This newfound focus on death faking seems to coincide with a post mentioning that he's begun believing that the guy's not dead theory in his own words, my eyes have been open. All of this is beginning to make too much sense. One of his posts details the belief that Ron Roottree is still in charge. Gwyn Rootree's death was faked, and that Clark is only there to throw people off. Apparently, this allowed Ron to travel to France to develop their new candy recipe in secret. Another is about the rapper 5Ps. Can't possibly be a Roottree. One of his first album songs, when he was performing under the devil name, actually mentioned that he wanted to have sex with Raina. Oh, Jesus. Not even Sam Matson is spared, according to Overwood. The author of 6 Pieces isn't real. Sam Matson is an anagram for Am Madness. They're purposely leaving hints for us. He claims that by using 6 Pieces with Lauren Rootree's book as a one-time pad, he has begun to decrypt a cipher. Most of the cipher has seemed meaningless, but he managed to pick out the words people and vastness and is working on figuring out what it means. There's also a request at the bottom. Next year, 2000, is a leap year, and Overwood is looking for funds and volunteers to catch the Rootrees' red-handed operation RT-29. He specifically mentions not to volunteer if you've ever drunk Spirit Cola, and doesn't go into why. What is Operation? This is an old page. I think we actually went over that. Guy's not dead. Conspiracy stems from a website that focuses on clues that the Rootrees have supposedly hit all over the place. This includes on candy wrappers, in print advertisements, in television commercials, in their jingles, etc. The story, according to the website, is that Guy Hudson was a terrible president of the Rootree Company and introduced multiple failed products. Something needed to be done that would put the company immediately and instantly back in the favor of the consumers. So they killed off Guy Hudson and replaced him with a new president. This move immediately garnered sympathy, and the company recovered the next year. More popular than ever. More popular than ever. The next president stayed much further out of the limelight, and some people even theorized that he was simply Guy Hudson in an elaborate disguise, which is why he stopped appearing in public. people who run the site are asking for help. They're certain that there's a clue in all of this that accidentally leaked in a banned article from the magazine Picoty. On their page is a scan of the magazine's cover, the interview with Cicely Sanchez about Guy Hudson, and some photos. You add them to your evidence. Okay. Photos. Oh! So, now we know why Guy and his wife never had kids. Patricia wasn't into dudes. She married Guy as a marriage of convenience because Guy loved women, and so did Patricia.
I return.
Welcome back.
What I missed?
Found out that Guy Hudson's legal wife is a lesbian. That's why they never had kids.
Considering who she was married to, I don't blame her for realizing she could do better.
Well, no. She married him specifically because of who he is. Guy Hudson loves women. And so does Patricia. Going to all those swinger parties was her best bet of, you know, being with women.
Basil Bob? Could this popular gift be filling homes with satanic messages? Yeah, that is definitely the satanic panic, alright.
This is in 99.
Do you not remember how people were freaking out over Pokemon and
Yeah.
Furbies?
Yeah.
See, what you do is you remove the Furby's skin. And then it'll start chanting about the Omnisaya. And preferring steel to flesh.
Roottrees, Brazil.
I can't confirm any of the Omnisaya stuff, but I do know that at one point my Furby started screaming at me backwards.
That may have been because of a corrupted battery. Hi, Armorhide. Don't forget D&D.
So,
I know. Satanic Panic. Someone
See, that's
told
the
me a
thing.
story.
There was no battery in the Furby.
Oh, fuck. Someone told me a story of how a grandmother, like, watched her grandkid, like, play D&D with their friends to prove it was satanic, but then halfway through she's like, wait, this is
I remember this one. Dava told us this one.
Yeah, she did. This isn't Satanism, this is just math.
yep.
Which, depending on who you talk to, maybe just as, if not more evil. I just see it as numbers. Numbers I am not necessarily good at, but numbers nonetheless.
I made the joke that the grandmother then proceeded to call them all nerds. Let's see. It was one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottrees candy. It was developed as part of the Roottrees Everywhere initiative near the beginning of 1979. Unlike some of the other Roottrees Everywhere results, Roottrees Brazil seems to be a success. You do some rough translating and find a significant amount of information about it. Brazil was the only region in which caviar-flavored 5 pieces released at the end of 1978 were a hit. The primary reason that the factory still exists to this day is solely to create that flavor, which comes in its own standalone 5 pieces bag with Portuguese writing. Small town named Alvalagos near the
municipality
of São Bernardo do Campo became the location chosen by the Roottrees Candy Company after a newly elected local politician named Edson Soares heard that they were planning a new factory and petitioned them in early 1979. The factory was controversial as locals did not want it there. The Roottrees visited Brazil around Christmas and managed to break ground on the project. Since then, however, it has been operating relatively smoothly except for 2 incidences. First was Incendio do Bordo in 1982, and the second was an unsuccessful strike in 1995 that involved all of the factory workers being replaced. The factory was originally built and run, according to paperwork at the time, by a small company called Nova Corporação de Doces Brazil, which literally translates to New Brazil Candy Corporation. This company no longer exists. Not much information has ever existed about it, and the Roottrees now run Roottrees Brazil entirely. So we are at 2 hours, 21 minutes. So let me just do this. Yeah, I think that's all I got for right now. Congratulations on them and their baby, though.
Here's hoping that their lives will be better than whatever the heck has been going on here.
Well, they're pretty far removed from the family. So
That's what I'm banking on.
like a lot of them seem to be the later generation seem to be far removed from the family. Like Jack and Christina. I mean, the only real connection they have is that their dad is a Roottrees, and even then the dad wasn't. Well, actually, no, the dad was involved in the company because in after Six Pieces he was brought in as a temporary president until they also brought in Clark and then replaced Ron with Clark. Sorry to be off topic, but the G1 horror cons deserve more love. Okay.
If you're gonna bring back the G1 horror cons, then bring back the monster bots too. They need their equals.
Wolf and Candy, I think, considering that their parents' whole deal is music rather than, the candy company, they're probably far removed from it. I know November is, because there's like barely any mention of her aside from the fact that she has a dance studio. The Roottrees sisters were definitely not far removed. They were in the thick of it. Chris seems pretty far removed, all things considered. Armorhide says, I accept your terms. Clark's
I'm laughing to myself about it.
Oh. Clark's daughters, actually, Chris and Clark's daughters may be less removed from it than before, since he's now the 6th president of the company. Then again, much like Ernest before him, he's kind of staying out of the spotlight. And Nicole and Stephanie probably far removed from all that. Mostly because, they weren't part of the Clans to Trust. No clue about the Wilson kids. All I know is that, their dad is a smug-looking piece of shit and a dentist.
I hear the name Wilson and my brain can only conjure up a volleyball with a face drawn on it.
Fucking internet connection.
And the Kellogg kids here, I mean, their mom is Bonnie Hudson. Guy Hudson's sister. So, I don't know. But I feel like a good portion of the family is
Real quick. Speaking of Kellogg, I would love to see a cage match between Freud and the founder of the Kellogg Corporation.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have a feeling this is going to take us to some very interesting, obscure trivia.
Because this would be a fight No, not the Kellogg Corporation. Well, yes, but more Alexander Graham Bell. What was that? Wrong word. The guy who invented graham crackers.
Oh,
Bell was the telephone dude.
yeah.
Blech. So many names. But yes, Freud versus Graham. I want to see a cage match between those two because it is a fight between the man who believes that everything in life begins and ends with sex, and the dude who thought that eating graham crackers could help people with abstinence. With, remaining abstinent from sex. That's why those were invented, by the way.
To keep people from having sex?
To keep people from wanting to have sex, yes.
Damn.
To resist the
Can I put
urges.
So can I put like metal pieces in their boxing gloves or what?
Who said anything about boxing gloves?
This is a cage match, baby. We're going WWE on this bitch.
This is a cage
I'll
match.
leave
This
some
is
steel
bare.
chairs.
This is bare knuckle. This is fully bare knuckle.
All right, I'll leave some steel chairs nearby.
Good plan.
Alright, so we are 2 hours and 27 minutes in, so we're going to call it here for today. Quick update. No stream tomorrow because the roof is being worked on. So, yeah, it's going to be too loud to stream.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do when you gotta do it.
Yep. Plus, I'm not going to be in this room simply because, again, too loud.
You're still gonna do the stream tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, because by then they should be done. Or at the very least, like, they'll, I don't think they'll go like, into the night. So, so you're saying you will have fiddlers on the roof? Kind of.
Fiddler's on a tin roof, more like.
But yeah, as far as I know, we are still going to be doing Transformers 1 tomorrow night. So with all that said, thank you all for watching. This has been Vegas Spare 92.
With Meikumon.
And Archival Deva.
Joined temporarily by Silas. And yeah, if you like what we do, want to see us keep doing it, feel free to support us in any way you wish, whether it be financially or through engagement. Monetarily or through engagement. And every little bit helps.
And every donation helps to clear the brain fog.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, stay safe, stay comfy, stay hydrated, stay healthy, be good to each other, and we will see you on Thursday with more Super Robot Wars. Peace.
Justice for egg cream.
Justice for Egg Cream!